This is my best and worst books of 2025 video. Very late, I know, but as I said, the start of 2026 has been very hectic and rough for me with the loss of my father and the addition of a little puppy. Anyway, we can get started. In 2025, I read 79 books. Some were fantastic, some were not quite so amazing, and I guess we can start from here. In January, I read 7 books. My lowest ranked book was The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek, which I gave 3 stars. The main reason I gave it 3 stars was I had some issues with the timeline of some of the historical facts within this book, more so relating to what made the main character have her blue particular colour, but I can't go into that without really giving spoilers, but I have written a full review on my Fable account for that. My favourite book, or the highest ranked book that I had within January, was The Wedding People and Beartown. If I think back and reflect, I think I would definitely label Beartown as my favourite book for January. It was just a beautiful book and I still think about it, which I actually have not been doing for The Wedding People. So that sort of cements to me that Beartown was the book of the month for me in January. February was a rather slow month. I read 3 books. All books actually were ranked 4 and above for this month, but I would say my lowest ranked book I would place as The Woman Who Fooled the World, which was the book relating to Belle Gibson and her cancer fraud and the whole pantry debacle. It's an interesting read. I do recommend it. The Way of All Flesh was absolutely brilliant. I do now, on reflection, wish I'd marked it up higher, as I have a BA in history and especially fascinated with medical history. So for me, that was just, I loved reading about the different characters. Many of them were true, and I did actually do a full book review. You can find it further down if you scroll down on my TikTok feed. The book that I ranked the highest was The House of My Mother by Shari Franke. Just depicts her childhood and how she felt growing up in a house with her mother and the family vlogging and just the abuse that she and her siblings endured. It was so well written, and what that young woman has endured and been through is just how far she's come is remarkable. I just highly recommend it. It's definitely a good read on how horrible family vlogging can be and how easily it is for some families to not be seen for who they really are, particularly the parents in the case of her mother. In March, I read 6 books. My lowest book was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, 2 stars. Enough said. I'm not a romance girl. My highest ranked book, I have 2. Now, Grady Hendrix, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, I really enjoyed. Now, it's not for everybody, but my other highest ranked book, Invisible Women, is for all women, and I really recommend reading it. It's a fascinating read, very interesting. There is so much that I could speak about where that book comes from, but we're on a time crunch here. In April, I read 6 books. None of the books in April were ranked below a 3. The book that I would probably have to place as my lowest read would be Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? Not because it wasn't enjoyable, but because it's probably the one that I've thought about least, and I did find it predictable. My favourite book for April was Playdate, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed the suspense of it and the way it was written. It was wonderful, and I also got to enjoy the miniseries based on the book, which did come out around the same time I read the book. May was a busy month. I read 9 books. My lowest ranked books was Pirate Women. Enough said. Did not enjoy that book at all. Do not recommend it. My highest ranked books, I gave 2 books 5 stars. One was The Women, which I absolutely adored. It was wonderful and beautifully written and amazing. I also read Carmilla, which I also adored and loved, and it was just blown away by just the gothic gorgeousness of the whole thing. So the book that I would remember and reflect back on more is Carmilla, and that is what I would pick to be my top read in May. In June, I read 3 books. My lowest ranked book would be The Cult Files. I am generally fascinated by cults, but for me this book just didn't hit the mark, so it's not one that I would recommend. My highest ranked book was Blood on Her Tongue, which was amazing, wonderfully written and incredible, but it is not for the school. In July, I read 9 books. My lowest book for the month would be The Princess Bride. In fact, I think I wish I'd rated it lower. We did not get on. I did not like that book. As you wish, I wish I'd never read it. I don't have anything nice to say, so we'll move on. My favourite book for the month was Blood and Guts. Once again, medical history. I was fascinated. I loved it. It was enthralling. Not for everybody. Once again, it's not for the squeamish. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do recommend it if you do find medical history fascinating. In August, I read 8 books. The book I would rank the lowest would be Small Things Like These. It was a lovely story, but it really fell flat. It could have been so much more. It was more like what you expect of like a teaser chapter at the end of another book by the same author. Just didn't hit the mark for me, unfortunately. My highest ranked book for August would have to be The Facemaker by Lindsay Fitzharris, which was about Harold Gillies, the New Zealand surgeon who went about reconstructing the faces of the men who were disfigured during the First World War with the trench warfare. Once again, medical history. I loved it. It was heartbreaking, fascinating, and just incredible. And the story of Harold Gillies' life is actually quite amazing. He does have quite a lot of other achievements that he did do in his life in relation to his sporting events and helping with early trans people and their transitions. In September, I read 7 books. My lowest ranked book would be Songs in Ursa Major. I really don't remember much about it at all, which is probably why I've placed it as my lowest ranked book. My highest ranked book for September would be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It was a wonderful book, very well written, and I preferred it to Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. For me, Addie LaRue was a much better story, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I did Bury Our Bones. In October, I read 4 books. My lowest book would be Somebody is Walking on Your Grave. I detested this book. I probably need to apologise to The Princess Bride because I think I detested this more than I did that. I really don't even know where to begin talking about how much I disliked this book. Anyway, I have a full review on Fable if you do want to go into it, but basically it was shallow trash with no substance. My highest ranked book for October was When Breath Becomes Air, which was a breath of fresh air after the previous book. This was a lovely memoir written by a young doctor who was struggling with his own cancer diagnosis and his thoughts and reflections leading up to his passing. I did read this book knowing that my father himself was going through a cancer battle, and that may be why it touched me so much, but it was a beautiful read and I really do recommend it. In November, I read 6 books. My lowest ranked book was Finding the Plot, 100 Graves to Visit Before You Die. Interesting to a point. I did learn a little bit, but really I think it could have been so much more. My highest ranked book was Wayward. It was one of the best, if not the best books I've ever read. It was beautifully written. I actually had to force myself to slow down so I could savour it. I even had some physical reactions to things that occurred to the characters in the book. And the men in that story are disgusting, maybe except for one. If you know, you know. Definitely worth a read. It's beautiful. In December, I read 11 books. My lowest ranked book would be The Silent Patient. I don't get the hype. It was really slow and predictable, and there was a certain point in the book where I thought it was quite obvious where it was heading and what the outcome would be, but that was just me. My highest ranked book was Project Hail Mary. I'm not usually a science fiction fan, but I thoroughly enjoyed that book, and Rocky is just the most delightful little creature that I think has ever been written. It's a beautiful book. So overall for 2025, my worst books would be The Princess Bride and Someone is Walking on Your Grave. We're not friends, not a fan of each other. My highest and most favourite book for the year is Wayward, closely followed by Camilla and then The Women. Well, these were my books and my opinions. We are all different, and I hope that you have enjoyed and loved all the books you have been reading. Thank you.